There are games created by massive teams following all the rules with a million meetings and timelines. And then there's Hotline Miami, which looks like it was put together by two exhausted junkies in a kitchen fueled by techno. It's a game that simultaneously reminds you of the movie Drive, all straight to video action flicks, and that moment when your downstairs neighbors blasts music so loud your soul starts to vibrate. Hotline Miami is when you get killed 3 times in a row on the first floor, but you still start another round because this time for sure, it's going to work. It's not just a game, it's a stress test for impulsivity. And you know what the funniest part is? All this wild, noisy, psychedelic beauty was made just by 2 people. No budget, no marketing, no innovative solutions, just, hey, let's make it beautiful and painful. But beneath all the clownery lies a story about telephones, voices, strange people in masks, and the question, did you actually want to do this? Or did you just get a phone call? Hotline Miami became a cult hit, and as usual nobody quite understood how it happened. It just showed up, knocked everyone out and left. Like that one friend who gets wasted, puts on a show and then disappears for 2 weeks. Today we're going to find out what that was, how it was made, why it was made, and why, years later, you still had the damn soundtrack in your head. You're here in Vauxhall. Get comfy and let's get started. In plain English, the development history of Hotline Miami is an example of how 2 weird guys with laptops, depression and game maker accidentally created one of the most iconic games of their time. Originally, it was marginal creative project, a mix of personal nervous breakdown, technical limitations and the aesthetics of 80s Miami movies, where people are constantly shooting and listening to synthwave. But at some point, this strange subcultural cocktail suddenly turned into a product that started selling, being discussed, and being copied. Hotline Miami wasn't intended to be a big game, nor was it meant to resurrect or reimagine the indie shooter market. It was made for their own small circle, and seemed too aggressive, too chaotic to appeal to a wide audience. But as often happens, when a project isn't viewed through Excel spreadsheets and quarterly reports, it suddenly exploded. The duo behind Dennaton Games, Jonathan Söderström, aka Cactus, and Dennis Wedden didn't just pick the top-down shooter genre up off the floor. They proved that independent developers could walk onto the territory of major publishers without blowing down or resorting to the market torture. Ultimately, the game sold over 1.5 million copies, blew the minds of anyone who thought pixel art was only for cute indies, and changed the market far more than anyone expected. But it didn't all start on the beaches of Miami. Cactus's first attempt at game dev were back in 2000. He was considered a very prolific developer. During this time, he developed a prototype called Super Carnage. He wanted to make a simple, good old-fashioned pixelated bloodbath. But as always, he hit a technological wall. Soderstrom couldn't implement a proper pathfinding algorithm for the AI in the game maker environment. Only years later, after dozens of strange minigames he churned out in Game Maker just for fun, did he dust off the old prototype and realize, oh, I finally know how to make an AI that doesn't run like a dog on ice. Then Dennis Wedden burst into the team, an artist who for some reason really wanted the game to look like a mix of an 80s action movie, nightclub and a bad acid trip. Consequently, the project stopped being just a bloody pixel shooter and turned into a psychedelic canvas where people get their heads smashed against linoleum to the sound of synthwave. But solving the bot behavior problem wasn't even half of the battle. The nightmare began when they tried to port the game. Imagine this, you have a game built in Game Maker. For those who are not in the loop, Game Maker lets you not worry about data types or memory allocation. It forgives everything. Jonathan wrote the code for Hotline Miami exactly like that, on intuition, duct tape and pure drive. Variables flew whenever they wanted, logic was held together by a pinky promise, and it all worked until they decided to port the game to other platforms and rewrite it in C++. This is where the developers at Abstraction Games who handled the port evolved. C++ isn't a kind grandfather, it's a strict warden, it demands order. The code of Hotline Miami there were only ordered chaos. To avoid rewriting everything from scratch, which would have taken years, programmers came up with the concept of ghost variables. Essentially, they created a sort of game maker simulator inside C++. How did it work? Two parallel realities lived in the code. One was C++ logic meant to run fast, the second consisted of these ghosts, proxy variables that limited the behavior of Cactus's original code. Every single frame, and there are 60 per second, a titanic synchronization took place. The ghosts whispered to the main code, "Listen, in the original, this enemy was supposed to glitch into the wall right now due to a calculation error. Make it happen." It was a digital Frankenstein. Instead of just executing code, the processor spent insane resources keeping the shadows of the past alive. It's like translating Mayakovsky poetry into Chinese, but forcing the Chinese speaker to imitate the author's rasps and smoking style, otherwise the magic is lost. Ultimately, these ghosts devoured resources like crazy. Imagine the irony, a pixel game that looks like it could run on a calculator was making consoles and PCs sweat, just because deep inside thousands of invisible variables were consistently screaming at each other to reproduce that specific cactus-style level of madness. This wasn't just technical depth, it was full-blown code necromancy. But the funniest thing is that thanks to this sync hell, Hotline Miami feels exactly as intended on all platforms. Twitchy, sharp, and damn unpredictable. Beyond the technical troubles, artist Dennis Whedon went through a heavy breakup during the work on the first game, which led to deep depression. His condition was so critical that he was hospitalized to a psychiatric facility for 2 weeks. Remarkably, even while in the hospital, he continued designing levels. Whedon admitted to weaving personal details of his relationship into the game, using the creativity as a way to ease the pain. Another key to success of Hotline Miami is the music. Music in Hotline Miami isn't just background noise, it's an active participant syncing the player's actions with the rhythmic structure of the soundtrack. Jonathan searched for music on Bandcamp, looking for artists who didn't create typical gamey sounds. 3 main music creators are The Moon, Scattle and San Errol. The involvement of The Moon, for example, began with a Facebook message from Soderstrom. Tracks like Hydrogen were created independently of the game and were originally intended to convey the atmosphere of loneliness in space. However, their hypnotic rhythm was perfect for the trance-like state players entering during the repeated level restarts. But what about the story? Our hero is Jacket, a silent guy in a jacket whose life has turned into an endless cycle. A call on the answering machine, a drive to an address, a bloodbath. They tell him go to the bakery, pick up the package. But we all know the cookies are a shotgun and the customers are the Russian mafia that needs to be turned into the ground beef. Let's be clear, this 1989 isn't the disco paradise sold in retrowave groups. Here, the US lost the Cold War, San Francisco has been wiped off the map by a nuclear blast, and Russo-American coalition patrols the streets of Miami like they own the place. This is the perfect breeding ground for ultra-nationalist resentment. Out of this rot, 50 Blessing is born. They pose as patriots or rebels, but they're actually puppet masters sending out animal masks and instructions for mass extermination. Jacket, on the other hand, is an empty shell. He has no voice, no clear motivation, just a dirty apartment with leftovers, fast food, and answering machine. He is the perfect avatar for the player, an empty vessel into which the developers pour pure, distilled psychosis. The most interesting part starts when the game stops pretending to be an action flick and switches to the psychedelic trip mode. Remember those sit-downs in the room with 3 entities? It's a pure Freudian model of personality broken into components. Richard is our ego. He's rational, asks uncomfortable questions, and is the only one who realizes we're in deep trouble. Rasmus is super ego, aggressive, oppressive, embodied as a Russian mobster. It's the voice of conscience that reversed its polarity and now just hates us. Don Juan is the ID. It takes the form of the rescued girl, our basic needs, the remains of empathy, slowly drawing in liters of pixelated blood. And the further we go, the more that room rots. Flies, the smell of death. Jacket isn't just clearing levels, he's performing a lobotomy on his own reality. Now for the main plot twist. You likely missed while grinding for an A+ rank. Most of the first game is a retrospective inside of the brain of dying man, After Richter puts a bullet in our head, Jacket's brain tries to piece together shards of memory into a digestible picture. This is why Beard, our fallen comrade from San Francisco, is suddenly alive and walking in every shop. He's always smiling, always giving items on the house. It's a defense mechanism. Jacket's brain tries to normalize the violence, turning aftermath of the murders into free pizza and VHS tapes. The timeline of conscious decay. On April 3rd, this is the first mission. We killed a homeless man and take the first step into the abyss. At May 23rd, there was an incident in the phone home, the only moment the system glitches, because we met someone else asking questions. June 8th, Richter's shot, the end of reality, the start of the coma. July 21, awaken, the illusion of kind beard shatters, leaving only thirst for revenge. But let's talk about the moment Hotline Miami breaks the back of its own logic. The battle in the phone company office. It's not just a boss fight, it's an existential car crash. We have Jacket, the perfect soldier who don't ask questions. If he's told, kill the dog, he kills it. If he's told, clear the floor, he turns it into the gallery of guts. And then there's Biker. This guy is a system error. He's only one arrogant enough to try to leave the game and find those pulling the strings. The kicker is the dissonance. In Jacket's version, he crushed Biker's head. In Biker's version, it's the opposite. But if we take off those rose-tinted glasses, we realize Biker version is canon. He's the only one who inflicts the trauma that sends Jacket into a coma. Biker is the will capable of breaking the cycle. Jacket is just a broken record, locked in a loop of his own memories. But who is behind it all? At the end of the Biker's path, we find two characters in a basement. If you found the secret password, you know they are part of the massive 50 Blessings conspiracy. But if not, their answer is even scarier. We were just bored. This is pure meta-commentary. The janitors are the developers themselves. They look you in the eye through the screen and say, you killed hundreds of people just because it was fun and the music was pumping. Admit it, you are not saving the world, you're just entertaining two bored guys in a basement. But why the masks? Aside from obvious hide your face from the police, the masks in Hotline Miami is a tool of alienation. When you put on a tiger or a horse mask, you cease to be a human, you became a function. The animal instincts justify any cruelty. I didn't shatter his jaw with a bat. Tony did. The game mastered this. Look at the mission structure. We start in a dirty subway where Jacket vomits after his first kill, but by the end we clear penthouses and bathhouses with absolute apathy. Your apartment gradually turns from a living space into a dumpster filled with pizza boxes and blood. It's not just level design, it's a graph of your psych degradation. But you know that hook, that moment of silence, it's the most powerful technique in Hotline Miami. It's walk back to the car. When the last enemy falls, the music stops, the pulsant synthwave is replaced by an oppressive low-frequency hum, and you are forced to walk back through the floors you just painted. You see the result of your actions in total silence. In that moment, the mask slips off and Rich's questions remains. Do you really like hurting other people? You wanted this A+ rank? Congratulations, you got it, at the cost of your final shreds of humanity. In the end, Hotline Miami is the game that shouldn't have been important, but it was. Two guys, depression, game maker, music from Bandcamp, and suddenly, a cultural phenomenon broken down into quotes and demo scenes. No budget, no marketing, no market takeover plan, just a roundhouse kick to the head. This game could have been just another pixel shooter, but instead it asked questions that usually leaves people with a slight psychological itch. Did you pull the trigger yourself or did someone else call you? And the funny thing is, nobody ever gave an answer. It's not even needed. It's like asking why you restarted level 40 times in one night. You don't know, you just did it. So yes, Hotline Miami, beautiful, painful, and far too true to be dismissed as just pixels. That's all. Thanks for watching. Tell us in the comments what's your favorite mask. And don't lie, we already know it was Tony.